Have you ever wondered what makes a great leader? Is it their decision making prowess, their ability to inspire, or perhaps it's their knack for innovation? Well, rise and shine leaders. This is Glen, Guyton, keynote speaker and workplace trainer. It is time for our executive coffee break. I got my beverage in hand, and I hope you have yours too. They say you can't choose your family, but you can choose your workplace culture and your beverage. And today I'm just drinking water. Yes, I am water. I'm staying hydrated. And, you know, leadership matters, so you might as well get good at it. And we want to talk about good leadership today. Today, we are diving into some best practices for finding your leadership style and testing it. In a world that's constantly evolving, knowing your unique approach to leadership is more crucial than ever. It's not just about managing teams, but it's about inspiring change, driving innovation, and creating a workplace where everyone feels valued. So, what is your style? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about identifying your leadership style. And this starts with some self-reflection. Ask yourself, what are your core values? How do you handle conflict? What motivates you, and how do you motivate others? Remember, there's no one size fits all when it comes to leadership style. Now, I have my own style that I've developed over a number of years, and I've tested it in a number of different ways. My leadership started off, of course, pretty early, maybe like you, and leading different things in school, or growing up, you were chosen to be the captain of the football team or the lacrosse team or the field hockey team or something like that. And that was the beginning of your leadership journey. And that probably shaped how you led even as you got older. I was a pretty mischievous young guy. Wasn't always a rule follower. Pushed the boundaries often, and that's probably a part of my leadership style. Now, there are a couple of things that happened to me as I began to grow and mature. Got to the United States Air Force Academy, and my leadership style was tested, right? How I related to people was tested. And I made some bad decisions, made a couple of bad decisions on how I treated people. I listened to the crowd. I got away from some of my core values, and I didn't always treat people as kind as I should, right? I couldn't put myself in someone else's shoes. I was high achieving, and when people didn't fit the mold that I thought they should fit, maybe I was overly critical, and I had to pay the price for that. And so that was how I began to test my leadership style. Now, that's the hard way to test your leadership style. There are other ways to test your leadership style. I think that are a little bit more healthy, and they don't wind up with you calling your mother and say, "Hey, mom, they're about to kick me out of here. I'm coming home." Well, they didn't kick me out. I did survive, but I think I'm a better human being because of some of the ups and downs that I had early on in my leadership journey. And now, college, when you're in your 20s, those are some perfect times to test your leadership style. But many of you are past that age. Maybe you are just now getting promoted, and your leadership style is based on how you were treated. And that's not always good. And so one of the ways that we can test our leadership style is to talk to some of our peers. Ask people what they think about how we lead. Ask people that we've supervised at different levels what we think about them. Maybe it needs to be an anonymous survey that you need to send out, because sometimes people aren't always comfortable talking to us. It's really a hard thing to ask people about your leadership style if you don't have that sense of self-awareness. it was a one of these dystopian novels that came out. One of these teen dystopian uh, novels, which I absolutely love, by the way. It was about this society, and everyone had a faction, right? Um, I think they even made a movie about it with Shailene Woodley, I think that's her name. But they had a tribe called Candor, and they were just really honest about everything. They were really direct uh, in how they talked to people. They had one that was dauntless, and they were like, the strong people. They were really athletic and really forceful. And so you were kind of born into a faction and you knew your style. Now, we're not born into faction, so we have to figure out who we are. I probably relate more to the people with Candor. I'm a pretty direct leader, and I've had to learn how to temper that some so that people can receive it. I've structured my teams in a way that those that can't take my directness are the ones that I supervise most closely. But it took some time for me to really listen to people and hear some hard truths about me, about myself, in order for me to shape that leadership style. So get some feedback. Get some feedback. Talk to people that know you. If you have kids, your kids will tell you what kind of leader you are. If you have a spouse, your spouse will probably tell you what kind of leader you are. So listen to them too. Sometimes we don't take our family members, we don't take criticism from our family members well, but sometimes they are the ones that are really telling us the truth, and they cut through all the stuff and get at the heart of who we are. But it's important that you know your leadership style. And so when you're mentoring people, I always tell people when I mentor them, don't try to lead like Glenn. Don't try to lead like me, because you haven't been through the things that I've been through. You don't have the experiences that I have. You don't have the same, um, I don't know, I don't want to say confidence, but you don't have the same emotions that I have. And so I don't consider myself naturally a very empathetic person. I can show empathy. I'm not naturally a very empathetic person. It's something that I've had to work on and develop over the years. So if you're a naturally empathetic person, lead with that. Lead that way. But that also may mean that if you are a naturally empathetic person, it may be more difficult for you to take criticism. It may be more difficult for you to fire people than if you are a person that's a little bit more direct and a little bit more straightforward. Criticism, I don't like criticism necessarily, but it doesn't keep me from doing the things that I need to do. I have had to make some tough decisions to fire people and all those other things. They aren't necessarily pleasant. I've had some sleepless nights, but that doesn't keep me from making that decision. When I need more empathy, I have more empathetic people on my staff that I can talk to that help me. And I say, hey, how would you feel if I said this to you? That's one way to test style. Get someone that you know is different from you. Ask them a question. If I said this to you, what would you think? How would you receive this? Or sometimes I go to my staff and say, this is what I plan to say. They'll say, Glenn, we don't think you should say that. When people aren't going to be able to receive that, it's going to come across too harsh. So don't be afraid to get the feedback that you need to be the best leader that you can be. And so we have to test our leadership style, and we have to get comfortable in our leadership style. If you are a tough, hard-nosed leader, realize that. And you may have to be more intentional about giving people breaks, softening how you lead from time to time. And that's okay. You don't necessarily have to change who you are as a leader, but you have to realize the impact of your leadership style on the people that you supervise. And you may not always get your style may not always get the best out of people. Your leadership style may suit a certain climate better than another climate. I have a tendency to thrive in chaotic situations. Some of the leaders like the calm and peace. It bores me. It bores me. And let me knock on wood or something and say I'm not looking for turbulent times, but I can navigate turbulent times. I like peace too. Some people always like peace. They like the status quo. Really is not my thing, not my style of leadership. So figure out what type of leader you are, especially if you are the senior executive of an organization. Your style will have an impact on everyone else. So realize the strengths of your style and realize the limitations of it. And you can take one of those personality tests, those strength finder things, that really help you process this or help you process how other people will receive you. I think that's, for me, a person like me, that's one of the greatest benefits of some of these personality tests. They aren't perfect. You know, the disc, the uh, Enneagram. I think I'm a 7 wing 8 on the Enneagram. I'm a very direct leader. Was it that D on the disc? I think that's D on the disc. So all those things, and they're self assessments, so they're only as good as you are at answering the question and being honest about those things. So my challenge, we're going to be short today. But my challenge for you is, I challenge you to implement one change this week based on your leadership style. So one change, you may need to restructure a team, you may need to get some feedback or something, but notice the impact it has on your team's engagement and performance. So if you are more direct, I want you to back off a little bit. If you are less assertive, I want you to step it up a little bit. If you are really concerned about how people feel, now we don't want to just start dissing people, but see if that thing lands a little bit differently for you. Don't let that emotion, that empathetic nature of you lead. Just kind of put it back to the number 2 position. So I want you to think about your leadership style, and I want you to change up something this week. Just next week, just change up something. Okay. So notice the impact that it has on your team's engagement and performance. And remember, the goal in any of this, when I'm talking to you, is to transform your organization. We want continuous improvement. I want you to be a better leader, because leadership matters. It makes a difference. So as we close today, let me get a sip of my water. Let's not forget the strength and perseverance that it takes to lead with empathy and inclusivity. Better leaders get better results. So to every one of you leading the charge for a more supportive and engaging workplace, I leave you with this. Stay bold, stay inspired, and remember that your actions today shape the culture of tomorrow. I'm Glen Guyton. You have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.